What's up, guys? And we're back. It's Anthony from AB Fitness Center here. You can check us out on the web, abfitnesscenter.com, for all your training needs. We help you get to the next level. And today we have an awesome guest on. And this idea was kind of prompted by what's going on with this quarantine, with what's going on. You know, everybody's kind of sitting around doing a lot less. And I want to know from a physical therapist standpoint, what people could do to keep their bodies healthy. So who better than to contact than my own personal physical therapist whenever I break myself, which actually, surprisingly, I've been working out every day straight since this happened. I'm on like 20 something days and I feel better than ever. I don't feel broke at all. So, I mean, maybe I should knock wood there, but I'd like to welcome on my personal therapist, Erin. Erin, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Very good. My personal physical therapist, not therapist. People think I'm nuts and I have a therapist that comes in. But Erin, thank you so much for coming on. I thought this was a really, really good idea. And like I said, the best physical therapist out there. Every time I break myself, Erin fixes me. So Erin, give a little introduction on who you are, how you found me, and talk about our experience together, because I don't think a lot of people know that. They just sometimes walk into the gym and see me on a table and then think, you know, what the hell's going on here?
So I first met Anthony at actually a Gold's Gym in Howard Beach a very, very long time ago through his sister, Danielle. And I tried to get him as my trainer so bad, and he was so busy I got stuck with somebody else. And that was a great learning experience. And now I only train with Anthony for the rest of my life. But it's been a really long time. What is it, like 5 years, 4 years, something like that. It's been a long time. But we kind of have similar ideology of how the body works and how people should keep their bodies fit and healthy. And so some of our knowledge crosses over, and it's been a very symbiotic relationship for each of us.
That's a great word.
Yeah, science.
I've been getting, guys, so just listening to this, I've been trying to get Erin so bad to like come on board with this. Like, Erin, you have to be the therapist at AB Fitness. You have to. So hopefully after this, maybe she'll consider it. Maybe
soon. Maybe when I move to Long Island, I'll take up the back room.
That sounds like a good plan. Remember this, we have 2 facilities now, and now we have a virtual one. So you never know.
Perfect.
You never know. But yeah, so Erin, again, phenomenal client, but neither here nor there. That's not why we're here. So Erin, okay, now with quarantine, what's going on? People are sitting down more. Everybody's like watching Netflix and watching Tiger King and all these other crazy things on TV. Everybody's lounging. No one's really doing anything. I mean, although people are more outside walking, I just still think that it's still not enough as activity as they were probably getting going to work. So from the body standpoint, I mean, I know because I kind of went through this for a little period of time. The first things that lock up, your hamstrings start getting tight, your back starts hurting you. So explain why that kind of happens to people, and then we'll talk about the other things after that.
Okay, so in the layman's terminology, basically, if you don't use it, the kind of fibers in the muscle will get stiff. So thinking in terms of the hamstring, constantly sitting and your knee joint is bent, those muscles will tend to get tight. And then once you stand up and you start walking, they're not able to produce the same amount of force that they would when they were at their normal length. And so injuries can happen in that way. You also have to think about things like joint fluidity, ligaments, tendons, all of that stuff that people kind of seem to forget about. You know, really being important in exercise too, can get tight. A lot of people, personally myself, don't drink enough water when we're sitting around because we just don't pay attention to it. So dehydration is important. So you want to drink enough water so that your muscles stay hydrated and stay loose. Definitely getting up and moving around so that your joints don't kind of lock down. Definitely the hips and the lower back too. Anytime those areas are more on like the stiffer end and not really getting the mobilizations that they need, you can have further risk of injury, something like maybe like a sciatica type flares up, or like a lower disc injury that you had when you were 18, 19, 20, you start to feel kind of come back. So it's important to get up and move around, even doing some kind of stretching and mobilizations on top of just walking and moving around your house.
So that happens basically, but why from sitting? I mean, I know the answer, but I'm asking you. So why from sitting? Like why when you sit down, you're lying down on the couch for a long period of time, why does all that like tighten up? Like what causes that?
So you have different fibers in your muscles. So when the muscles kind of are not working, they kind of get stiff. And so the actin and myosin, they kind of come together, right? And then they're kind of there. Nothing is kind of stretching them out and bringing them back together in the sense of like a contraction. So the tissues will not need to move, then they won't move, and everything will tighten up in that way. So it's on a small scale and it's on a large scale too. So part of what happens when you're moving your joints is anytime you move a muscle across a joint, you're stretching it to its end range and then bringing it back. So if you're constantly sitting, if you think about the hip or the hamstring, you're constantly sitting in that flexion position, you're elongating one side of the muscle, but then on the other end of the muscle, your knees, maybe something like that, you're not getting across that joint, so it's not moving to its full potential.
Yeah, and then everything starts to lock up, and then that's when you start to feel it. I mean, so for me personally, I've never sat. First of all, I don't sit down ever. So during the first like 2 weeks of this quarantine, not even probably the first week, we closed the gym, and I'm kind of like, I was doing my thinking on what I'm gonna do next, and kind of what has to happen. And I never watched so much like TV and sat down this much. And I started noticing, I'm like, holy crap! And even though I was working out, I'm like, holy crap! Just sitting this long, everything's starting to tighten up. I couldn't believe it. And it was only after like a week. So it just kind of gives you a good idea on, how fast your body adapts to something when it comes to you. So, for those of you who are listening to this now, what are we, 6-7 weeks into this? If you haven't done anything yet, I can only imagine how someone feels at that point.
Yeah, I mean, I was sick for a little while, and I stayed in bed for like 3 days, and like my whole body was just so sore and so achy, just from not doing, like, I have an active job, so just from not doing what I'm used to doing during the day, I'm like, oh, I felt like an old lady. I was like, oh God, this is terrible.
So what would be, so if someone suffered from back pain, right? And they're finding that their lower back is getting really, really tight now, and they're home and they can't figure it out. What would you recommend some things that they do just to just kind of alleviate some of that pain?
So definitely a lot of it is prevention, posture, and your setup. So, I've been on a computer a ton, so I'm sitting down a lot. If you can alleviate the amount of time that you are sitting in front of the computer, that is where I would go to first, which tends to be hard for some people, but if you know how to set up your station where you're working, you can kind of do either like a modified standing desk, or you can take breaks. So one of the first things that I would say is that I would not sit more than an hour at a time. So set an alarm clock, every time Netflix gets to the end of an episode, get up, walk around like, a couple of minutes at a time. Definitely I would do that. And then I would set up your workstation. So when you are sitting, you should be sitting in a chair that's comfortable, that your hips and knees are at a 90-degree angle. So if you think of the letter L for both of those areas, your feet should comfortably touch the floor, not dangling, and not kind of up really high, resting on like a foot post or anything like that. If you have armrests on your chair, your arms, same thing. You want them to be at a 90-degree angle. Sitting up tall, one of the things that's helpful is if you have like a beach towel or a bath towel, fold it in half long ways and then roll it into a roll and put some rubber bands on the outside of it and place that in the natural curve of your lower back. And that will help to support the natural curve for upright sitting. A lot of the kind of like office chairs have them already built in, but I'm sitting at like a bar stool type of chair. So I would add that into my regular chair. And then you want to raise your monitor so that it's eye level. So a lot of people kind of do this and kind of like forward fold on a laptop. Or if they're sitting and their desk is a little bit lower, they kind of get that like hunchback posture. You want to raise your computer monitor so that it's eye level. So sometimes that means you can raise your desk, or other times if you have a laptop, kind of putting like a thick book underneath it or some kind of wedge underneath it so that you can kind of raise it Those are really good suggestions for sitting for the periods of time that you do have to sit. But again, I would get up every hour for at least like probably close to 10 minutes. And if you really have to push it, I would try to do some of your work just standing at a countertop if there are people who cannot get away from their computer every hour.
Yeah, those are good tips. I actually need to put a book underneath my laptop right now because like I'm like I find myself like this. So sometimes it's always good to be reminded of things. I love the idea of the standing part of it, especially desk. For me, I always work better. My brain works a lot better too when I'm up, like if I'm standing up. So usually every night I do a seminar online and I always am standing for that. And I feel like those seminars come really, really good because I'm standing. Same thing when I'm on a phone call, I'm always pacing back and forth. I don't know. When I sit, I just don't feel as comfortable. I feel like the ideas can't flow. So I love the idea of like standing all the time. I think that that's a really good idea. And if you can get a stand-up desk, I think that that's ideal. I really, really do. Because sitting like this all day is just wreaks havoc on everything. I mean, I'll let you get into that. So sitting at a desk all day with bad posture, what does that lead to? What ailments all the way from the head to the toes?
Oh my goodness, that's a tough question. There's so many. So starting from top down, I would probably say that everybody kind of does this forward head position. So you're going to lead to strain in your cervical spine, so your neck area. A lot of times people might feel some tightness in their jaw or like a strain in the front of their neck from having their neck so far forwards. And then what happens is to correct the forward posture, people kind of like dip their head backwards so that they can have their eyesight kind of where it should be normally. So then you're going to get some tightness in the back of your neck. A lot of those issues will lead to kind of more postural issues down the chain, but maybe some referred pain into the area of the neck on the side, into the trap, into the shoulder, into the shoulder blades, all of that kind of would flare up. Tightness, stiffness, maybe you can't turn your head and look over your shoulder all the way. And then your activities during the day kind of would be impacted. So not now, but a lot of people have issues with driving when they have this forward head, they can't turn and look over. Some people, they can't blow dry their hair or wash their hair because they have so much kind of tension in their upper shoulders from a neck pain. Going down, you would get kind of like a kyphosis posture. So the upper back, the thoracic spine, you'd get rounded there. You would get kind of your chest tightness, rib cage tightness, some pain in the back. You would get pain in your lower back. The lower back is, kind of a big thing, right? So we have a lot of nerves and discs that run through the spine. So when you're constantly sitting all day long, you're putting a lot of force through the spine. I think it's something like 150% of your body weight goes through your spine when you're sitting. So if you think about all of that stress and pressure through very kind of temperamental parts of your body can lead to injury, and it can lead to also long-term injury. So once we get out of quarantine, you're not just going to be like, oh, bam, I'm ready to go because I can stand and walk and go to work. Low back injuries can also radiate down the leg. A lot of people will get some glute tightness, some hip flexor tightness, stiff joints in their hips, difficulties with walking because of that. If they're very kind of tight in the glute area, a lot of people will get kind of like a sciatica pain or pain down the leg, kind of that like burning sensation down the leg. Calves can get tight, knees feel achy. Ankles and feet can feel sore. One of the biggest things I find with people spending so much time in their house is that nobody's wearing shoes. So a lot of barefoot walking, a lot of pounding on the floor is not good for your heels and your ankles. So some people have a flared up kind of plantar fasciitis or soreness in the bottom of their foot, which can be burning pains as well too. So there's a lot. There's a lot going on. Everything is connected too. So what happens sometimes is some people find something going on at a knee or an ankle and they try to correct it and they maybe overcorrect it, and then they've got something, out of alignment with their hip or their lower back, or, in a reverse manner as well too. So
yeah, I was just going to say that, it's funny because one of the things that I learned this from you is that certain habits that we have tend to usually give us the injuries that we get. And as you guys can see from what she just said, just sitting at a desk incorrectly can lead to, pain in your knee. So sometimes we think that it's okay, I have pain in my back or whatever, it's directly my back. It's usually not just the back. It's usually the other things that we do. So usually the habits that we have equal injuries. So in your professional opinion, you think a lot of people are going to come out of this quarantine with a lot more injuries?
Yeah. Definitely.
I agree.
I do think so. And I think, one side of the coin is the non-movement. And then the other side of the coin is, when people get out, they don't realize that they've just sat and done nothing. And then you get those, we call them sometimes weekend warriors, or those overuse injuries. So people will sit on their couch for 2 months and then go say, 305 was my squat max in January. So here I am in April after not moving and I'm going to squat 305, right? And that's not where you're at anymore. And you need to kind of adjust for those kind of limits, I guess you could say, but where you're at in your physical fitness is going to be different when you come out of the quarantine.
Yeah. I mean, agreed 100%. One of the things too, and I want to circle kind of back to this. So, people have pain in certain areas. And I've heard this a lot before the quarantine, but people get pains in areas. So my back hurts, right? So automatically they think, okay, my back hurts. So I need to stop everything that I'm doing because my back hurts, thinking that that's going to actually solve the problem. So is that a bad idea? So if my back just flares up, is it a better idea that I just sit down and lie down all day?
So no, it's not. You don't want to lie down all day and completely avoid activity, but there are activities that can be done safely, and there are activities that would make you worse if you continue to do them. So it's kind of a double-edged sword. You really need to kind of listen to your body and see what's going on. 95% of people who have lower back pain respond very, very well to exercise in a controlled environment. So specific exercises for strengthening the core, and the core includes the front, the sides, and the back, strengthening the hips and strengthening the legs. A lot of times people will have lower back pains and lower back issues that's coming from a weakness in a hip, or a weakness in say a quad, or just even kind of that forward bend posture, right? So completely stopping movement is not the right answer, but movement in a controlled environment and listening to your body. So after an exercise program, you might be sore for a little bit in the evening or part of the morning. If you're sore for all of the next day and the day after that, you've done too much, and you should really kind of take a day in the middle and then carry on the day after.
Yeah, I agree. I think that that's all good points. And I think that one of the things that we've been trying to tell people is, listen, I understand. And a lot of people just people in general right now, the gyms are all closed. They can't do anything. And they're like, online training is not something that I want to do. Well, what are you going to do? You got to do something. You got to be active. If you're not active, you're going to fall apart, and mentally too. Exercise is a whole slew of benefits mentally. But we won't even go down that route. But that's the wrong expert I have on here.
Not with me anyway.
Yeah, exactly. But, just physically, I think that it's important just to move and to try to exercise as much as you can using the whole body. Like you mentioned, using the muscles of the hips, the lower back, the core, engaging all those things can make a huge difference. So I guess my prescription would be to get on a sound program at home. Even if you don't have the money for a trainer or whatever the case is, just doing something as simple as planks, squats, using things around your house can make all the difference to how your body feels normally throughout the day.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I definitely think that walking is a big place to start for a lot of people. You can go outside and take a walk safely during the quarantine as long as you're following the recommendations. But even just if you live in a building, you can go up and down the stairs, you can walk through the hallways. People who have backyards, you can walk around your backyards. But anywhere you are, there's plenty of bodyweight activities that you can do. And bodyweight activities have significant benefits as well. Even if you are somebody that's very used to lifting heavy weight and moving heavy weight and you're kind of feeling like, not the greatest, that you can't have access to the gyms, there's a lot of ways that you can challenge your body with body weight or, gallons of milk or, soup cans and things like that as well.
Yeah. So for someone who has a previous injury or something else that, like, let's say going into this, right before this happened, they had an injury, now this happened, what would kind of be like your recommendation on them to continue to keep healing in the right way? I mean, obviously it depends on what the injury is, but for someone that has a prior thing up to this, what would you recommend them do so they don't take a step back?
I mean, that's one of those questions where the answer is it depends, which I used to hate to hear in school, but it's genuinely the answer. Somebody who has an injury and they understand their injury and maybe they were in therapy, they would continue to do their exercises, and continue to move along in that way. For somebody who had an injury who wasn't really sure what was going on and maybe didn't seek medical treatment yet, it goes back to listening to your body. So there's a difference between feeling soreness and feeling pain. So if you're doing a workout and maybe, it's a new exercise and you're feeling a little bit sore, that's different than feeling pain. So if you're feeling pain, you need to stop what you're doing. So as a general rule of thumb, I usually tell my clients, if you're experiencing more than 5 out of 10 pain, you should stop whatever activity it is that you're doing. Take a rest day, take the rest of the afternoon off, and take another day off in between. And then scale back the activity that you were doing and try it again on another day. Usually 1 day of rest in between, if you are experiencing some kind of pain like that, is enough to calm it down. I think ice is great. I think a lot of people don't really understand the full benefits of ice, but if you have an injury and you do a workout and you're kind of like, oh, I'm a little bit sore, throw an ice pack on. 10 or 15 minutes is all that you really need. And after you're exercising towards the end of the evening, it really has great benefits. Calming down the inflammation and slowing down circulation so that you don't get that kind of swelling or, inflammatory process, has been really, really useful for people who are stuck at home. And then of course you can always kind of, stretch, and if you have a foam roller, and just take light walks and keep your body moving.
Yeah. I don't think the foam roller is going to exist in our gym anymore after all this. I don't think it's going to exist anymore. It's just, I guess it's like, it's the community thing, so
yeah.
No more foam roller in the gym, but, so Erin, I kind of want to shift gears here. I want to make people laugh a little bit. So,
oh God.
So, I'm the trainer, I'm the one who's in charge. So, I'm always like, trying to correct people and blah, blah, blah. Do as I say, not as I don't. Right. So this is
right.
where it's time to spill the beans. How bad of a client am I?
You're the worst.
I just want people to hear the truth. So go ahead, Erin. Why am I the worst?
Oh my God, I don't want to get myself in trouble. I would say that you are the worst because you refuse to do your exercises at home. So I'll give an example. One day I wasn't feeling so well and my body hurt. I think it was like a low back or a hamstring type of thing. I really overworked myself, and I checked in with Anthony and I said, I didn't do my exercises for a couple of days. Like I needed my body to rest. Like I just did some walking and whatever. Oh, that's so terrible. You need to move. You need to go to the gym 5 days a week and do your exercises like I told you to. Okay, fine. Fast forward a week later and Anthony has some trouble in his neck, and I give him probably 14 different exercises that he could do in a 2-week period, and he did 0 of them. They're awkward. Oh no, they're tough. They're awkward. I don't know. That would just be one example.
Well, it's funny because you were talking about it before. How it's good to take a rest and take a day off in between. And I'm sitting there like, okay, I never did any of that. When I hurt my back, I just kind of just pretended like it didn't bother me and just kept going.
Just pretend it doesn't hurt and it will stop hurting. That's the wrong mentality.
See, guys, I'm just like you. Everybody's finding out. Like I drank the other day on this and people are like, oh my God,
oh my God, I almost fell out of my chair.
You see what I mean? The next thing I got to do is eat dessert on camera just so people believe that I'm actually human. But yeah, I don't listen to people who I hire either. So I guess I'm just like everybody else.
That's fair.
Well, Erin, thank you so much for coming on. I really, really appreciate this. If anybody has any questions, I know you said you were nice enough to help them and answer those questions. So where can people get a hold of you? And
I mean, I am in the Facebook group for your clients. Otherwise, my Facebook name is Erin Casey, and I'm very popular.
And I'm finding out more and more how hilarious you actually are.
I'm so funny.
You are so funny. People don't
give me enough credit.
You are so funny.
Yeah.
Your comments lately, I gotta be honest. I don't know if it's you're well rested because you're not running around at work, but the comments that you've been making lately have been making me LOL. I've literally been laughing out loud.
I'm losing my mind because like I don't see enough people during the day. I love to talk. I love, love, love talking. And my boyfriend is a first responder, so he's out of the house for a majority of the day. So I have my little kids for teletherapy and I'm like, please tell me a story. Please do something. So that Facebook group has been really, my social life lately. It's been fun.
Well, I think this week we're actually going to do a trivia and a drinking night.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah. So be on the lookout for that. We got to announce that soon.
Great.
All right, Erin. Well, thank you so much for coming on. I really, really appreciate it. And guys, if you found this interesting, give this a like on Facebook, give it a share. If you're listening to this on Facebook, if you're listening to this elsewhere, do whatever you got to do to like this. I don't know, whatever you're listening to this. And if you're interested in training, head on over to abfitnesscenter.com. Thanks for listening and watching.